Ma'am, everyone knows about you as an IAS officer. Maybe the ones who follow your Instagram and other pages also know that you are a very active yoga practitioner, which conveys your excellent posture right now as well. So this is the first book that you have written, and it is titled The School of Life, and it will be published in a few months. So what has been your experience, ma'am? What motivated you to write this book, and what has been your experience in writing a book?
Thank you so much, Jeeva. And thank you, KLF, for this wonderful opportunity. So you must be curious why we are sitting down. So it will be covered in the course of the conversation. So only if you pay attention, you'll know why we are sitting down. Coming to your question, Jeeva, basically, I'm grateful for the kind of blessings I've had in my life. From a simple middle-class family girl, I've had the opportunity to come into the Indian Administrative Service. And in this journey, the IAS is a beautiful service which allows one to go to places and meet people which we otherwise, might not be able to meet unless you're in service. So that is a blessing I felt, and that blessing has completely changed my perspectives about myself as well as the world we live in. And I have been sharing these perspectives in multiple platforms, and the response has been pretty interesting. So that's when I thought maybe if I can put all these ideas in the form of a book, I felt people should be aware of what I learned from my life. Those learnings should be made public is what I felt, and that's how I came to write a book.
Wonderful, ma'am. I'll just share my first thoughts about the book. In one word, I will call it as a very brave book.
Thank you.
Because you are very sincere, very honest in this book, and I feel that you have put yourself out there, and it is not an easy thing to do. And in fact, you have been very comfortable in sharing the negative aspects that you have experienced in your life, your weaknesses, the negative emotions you have felt. You have even called yourself a coward because of your fear of exams, and very often we see civil servants talking about success only, and so now in every way your life is an open book in a way, and I think it's a wonderful way for people to get to know you, the raw Vasuki, if I would put it that way.
Yes, the raw Vasuki is what you will be seeing in the book, at least in some places of the book. The idea is that all of us have our weaknesses. We all have our weaknesses. We all have a share of emotional problems, but we generally don't talk about our vulnerable emotions in the public because we are trained to hide our weaknesses and display only our strengths. And because we are not dealing with our weaknesses, I feel the entire planet has become weak and it's dying. So I feel this is my introspective journey, what I discovered about my inner self throughout this 42, 43 years of walking on this planet. So which is why in this book, I have been very honest, as much honest as possible I can, in sharing my weaknesses, what I did to overcome those weaknesses, so that I can inspire people to have the courage to overcome their own weaknesses. Thank you.
Ma'am, I wanted to ask you about the greatest teachers of your life. You call them as the greatest teachers of your life, your kids. So my question is, how have your kids influenced your quest for self-improvement, and what have they taught you about life?
So we as parents and adults, we always believe that we need to teach our children so many things, we need to raise them in a particular way that we think is best for them. But you know what we forget is that they can teach you about life. That's what happened in my children's case. My children are 13 years and 11 years today, but when one example where my children taught about life is that my daughter was hardly 3-4 years old at that time, and a lot of things happened I've shared in that book. That one thing I have not shared in the book is this following incident. When she was about 3-4 years age, she complained to me, Amma, you know, you are always not at home, you come late in the evening, and the moment you come home, you start watching TV. You're not playing with me at all. You know, that as a mother broke my heart. It was like, what am I doing, you know? Is TV more important than my daughter? I mean, of course, we are all stressed, and you know, the one thing which really winds us down, you know, just sit in front of the TV as soon as we get back from office. But when my daughter asked this, that really, you know, awakened something in me. So what we did, gradually we removed the idiot box out of our house. We removed TV connection from our house. We don't have a TV currently. And so what happened is that we were forced to talk to our children when we come home. We don't have anything else to do. So we started, and we also keep our phones away when we are at home so that, you know, we are not drawn by the technological madness that comes through the phone. So, you know, we are forced to bond with them. We are forced to talk to them. And what I understand is that, you know, children do not want toys or fancy things. No, they don't want anything. All they want is my time, my mental space, and my emotional availability. I feel in this current lifestyle, this has become a rare commodity. You know, our own time and mental space and emotional availability for our own children has become a rare commodity in this current lifestyle. So, not only that, it's about the same time that I started working in the environment sector. I mean, I was working in Sujita Mission for waste management. So I was learning a lot about the environmental pollution that are happening. So as a mother, you know, I wanted to understand what kind of a world have we created for my children. I wanted to understand what kind of a world they are going to have when they grow up. So it is the mother in me that actually awakened the researcher in me to understand the world we live in. So that is why I say my children are the greatest teachers of life. Even today, even till this date, they teach me something and I'm ready to receive what they are teaching me.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, you were just speaking about the current lifestyle. And I think in your book also you are raised concerns about the lifestyle and you're quite critical about it. Can you elaborate on this?
So if you really think about it, the current lifestyle that we are all leading today is primarily designed to serve the purpose of what? Industrialization and commercialization. So it is primarily designed to serve the purpose of industrialization and commercialization and not primarily for the health and happiness and the welfare or the well-being of us human beings. I can give you an example. If you see, what is the bedrock of industrialization and commercialization? Can you think of it? You know, what is the bedrock or what does commercialization and industrialization thrive upon for its very survival? It's basically profit maximization, right? So, and how do you get to this profit maximization? Unless you produce more and more products, services, and sell more and more products or services, only then the profit maximization can be achieved. That means that we need to make production a very cheap process. And in order to make this a cheap process, what have we done? We have started introducing toxins in every product that we use. Anything that you consume has chemicals in it. So much so that, for example, you know, this this microphone, this has chemicals. The dress I'm wearing has chemicals. The paper I'm holding has chemicals. So everywhere it's loaded. The food we eat, not to forget that, you know, it's loaded with chemicals. So ultimately what has happened is that, again, the researcher mother that I was came across a paper which literally sent, you know, shocking waves through my spine. You know what this report says? Even when a baby is not born inside the mother's womb, you know, the baby is exposed to toxic chemicals. How did they find out? They tested the umbilical cord blood of an average newborn and they find that thousands of toxic chemicals are found in the umbilical cord blood of newborns. And how many of us know this as a fact? So we are thinking that environmental pollution will affect us once we come into this world. But the sad fact is that even before we come into this world, when we are in our mother's womb, from that moment on, we are exposed to chemical pollution. This is the world that the commercialized or consumerist world has created. So this is why I say the consumerist world doesn't care about our health or happiness. All it cares about is profit maximization. Now, who are part of this consumerist world? It is not like some, they are like evil villains who's like, ha ha ha, say that, I enjoy destroying your health. It is all you and me, people like you and me, who are blinded by the illusion that only profit maximization will help us becoming happy. So we are blinded by this illusion. So this illusion is what has made us proceed on a self-destructive path. So we are in a self-destructive path where all of us are contributing in destroying our own health as well as the health of the planet.
Ma'am, we were just talking about happiness. In a way, we have talked about consumerism, material things. At the same time, you have to talk about our mind. What is happiness? What is the purpose of your life? So you're a doctor, you're an IAS officer, you're a psychology graduate from the UK, you are a
University of Reading in the UK.
You practice yoga and meditation on a daily basis. So in today's world, we are seeing increasing unhappiness all around. In a way, increasing suicides, divorces, crimes, drug addiction. What are your thoughts about this?
So if you see, as I mentioned, the consumerist world does not care about our health. For example, now I'll come to the question like, why are we sitting down? So for example, science has discovered that sitting down and doing things, carrying on your everyday work by sitting down actually increases longevity, okay? But that doesn't sell anything. Does it sell anything? No, right? So we have made furnitures, chairs and everything a necessary part of the design that we have created for ourselves. So unless we sit in a chair, then we are not decent people. If we sit down, it's indecency. That's how we've been trained. The mind has been trained to feel that sitting down is lack of culture or civilization. So that is how the consumerist world has shaped our thinking. Likewise, if you see the happiness part, when it comes to happiness, let me say as a psychology graduate as well as a meditator, it is a mental state, right? Happiness is a mental state. Now, as I see it, the mind can be divided into two aspects, the human mind. One is the animal inherited mind. We are all evolved from animals, right? So the brain is evolved from an animal form. So the brain actually is related with something I would love to call biological happiness or neurological happiness. The other aspect is the actual happiness, the real happiness, the true happiness. To understand what is true happiness, we need to understand what is biological happiness. What is biological happiness? So every time, for example, there is a very interesting experiment in psychology called the Pavlov's conditioning of dog. Psychology graduates might know. What happened is that Pavlov is one of the early psychologists. What he did is that he made a dog, he experimented with a dog. They put a instrument that measures the salivation of the dog's saliva, that it measures the dog's saliva. So what they did is that they first rang a bell. So ting, they rang a bell, and then they were, after a while, say 3-4 minutes later, they served food. So they started measuring the saliva. Nothing happened. Second time, ting, food, ting, food. So the dog then associates the bell with the food. So what happened? After a while, they stopped giving the food. But when the bell rang ting, automatically the saliva in the mouth started secreting in expectation of the food. So this is what our brain also, the animal-derived brain, from when we are young. When we get good marks, our parents appreciate us, our teachers appreciate us. So there is a small release of the pleasure hormone called dopamine. Dopamine is released in the brain. It's a pleasure hormone. So you get a short term of pleasure, the reward hormone. The moment you get marks, the dopamine is released. And the moment you get a good appreciation at work, the pleasure hormone is released. So the brain makes us believe that this biological happiness is the true happiness. So we all start running behind this kind of a success thinking that this will give us happiness. And from young, we've been trained in such a way that, we started tying up our happiness with external events and things. And we have totally forgotten the truth about life, that real happiness actually lies within the events and things within us. So this is what I was exposed to, something called experiential sciences. And when I started learning meditation and from the experiential sciences, I started climbing levels, starting higher and higher levels of my own inner happiness, love, and peace, only because I started working hard on my inside, my internal success, rather than working hard for external success. So that is the biggest learning I had in life.
I'll ask about something that you just mentioned, success. In your book, you term addiction to success as the greatest of all addictions. And you say that we all should define success on our own terms, and we should redefine what success should mean to the world. So in that context, what is the definition or the redefinition of success to you?
Okay, now what is the current definition of success that this materialistic world has taught us? The current definition of success will want somebody to either earn a well-paying job or a great business, or somebody has to become powerful, like maybe you and me, and probably otherwise they'll have to become famous. So what it means is that it ultimately boils down to the famous trinity: power, fame, and money. So we will not call somebody successful unless they possess either one or more of these components, namely power, money, and fame. Isn't it so? You imagine a farmer, a simple living farmer living in a village. He's producing healthy food for his community. And he's living a very quiet life. He doesn't have much money. He lives a quiet life. He's very happy and blissful. Would you call him a successful farmer? You won't. Unless the farmer makes a lot of money from his farming, only then you will call him a successful farmer. So the definition, today's definition of success, what the society has made, is based on this kind of a definition. But what we need to understand is that this is not actual happiness. Success does not give happiness. What gives happiness is when we have mastery over our mind. And that is what I deal in length inside the book.
Ma'am, a term that comes up very often in your book is prove myself.
Yes.
You say that the more people doubted your success and feared your failure, the more you wanted to prove yourself correct to them. And in fact, in a place you call it as a prove myself disease. So why do you think people suffer from prove myself disease, and how can they get cured?
So this is related to the question you asked earlier, because we are all addicted to success. So when you are addicted to success, the only way you feel worth about yourself is when you can prove yourself that you are better than the others. Because the moment you get first rank, you have proved that you are better than the others, and you are rewarded. So for that, we need to understand the basic mechanism behind addiction. So addiction and dopamine are very related, because every addictive behavior has a basic dopamine mechanism behind it. How does it work? So whenever you watch, say you get a like in your social media post, immediately it's like, right? You get a pleasure. So there is a dopamine release, right? So you, likewise, again at work, somebody appreciates you, there is a dopamine release. So you start craving for that dopamine release, that pleasure. So you want to keep adding more social media posts, or you want to have ice cream, that is also releasing dopamine, whatever. It could be anything. So you keep craving for that dopamine release, and you keep repeating that behavior with the hope that you will feel that pleasure again and again, that happiness, that neurological happiness that your brain is tricking you into. So, but then the problem is, the repetitive behaviors with the hope of dopamine release ultimately ends up in depression. Because brain is ultimately, it is also a biological machine, right? You can't keep overworking the dopamine mechanism. So beyond a point, the brain becomes tired and it leads to depression. So this is what they call the addiction dopamine depression cycle. Okay, but the only problem is, Generally, doctors and psychologists relate this with only alcohol and drug addiction. But you know what is the truth of the fact, truth of life is that today's lifestyle is completely engulfed by this mechanism of dopamine addiction. Every aspect of the consumerist world thrives on this dopamine addiction depression cycle. Whether it is food or, I don't know, whether it is tasty food and unhealthy food or gadgets like, getting these gadgets, phones and cars or whatever, and probably even success. So the ultimate addiction is to success. That is why I say success is the mother of all addictions, because we are blinded by this neurological happiness. We believe that this will give us happiness, but ultimately we enter into this dopamine, depression, addiction cycle. We enter into this trap, which ultimately leaves us depressed and probably mental restlessness, and I'm sorry to say, what I'd like to call is madness. And it is this madness that is ultimately creating a very unhealthy and unhappy humanity across the globe. And it is this unhappy humanity that is perpetuating an unhappy planet. So unless human beings are shown the way to actual happiness, I believe as an environmentalist working for sustainable lifestyle, sustainability will not happen. Only happy human beings can create a happy planet. And that is what is the crux of this book, basically.
Ma'am, you were talking about only happy people can create a happy planet, and for that, in your book also you have mentioned that it is very important to understand your emotions and how we should increase our emotional intelligence as well. In your book, there is an interesting chapter titled The Emotional Lady Officer, in which you describe about an incident when you were assistant collector in Madhya Pradesh, and how you say that displaying emotions is not necessarily a sign of weakness. Why should and how can people be in touch with their emotions to have a happy life?
Yes. So, as I was mentioning, unhappy people create unhappy planet. So, if you take any problem in this world, take any problem, okay, be it wars between nations or that between husband and wife, or profit maximization driven by greed that is polluting the planet, or selfishness that is perpetuating poverty. You take any problem. What is the ultimate reason? What is the ultimate origin of these problems? Can you guess? It's human ego, right? The human mind. So from what I learned is that these experiential perspectives help one purify the human mind in such a way that greed, hatred, violence, anger, selfishness, everything, we can keep removing these mental impurities and get to our actual state of happiness and well-being. So through these practices, what happens is that a very crucial aspect of emotional intelligence called self-awareness keeps increasing. What is self-awareness? Self-awareness is completely being aware of our emotions. How we make use of our emotions to understand ourselves. How can I use my emotions as well as your emotions to understand you and the people? And how, when you understand the emotions, you will accordingly modify your behavior. You will be able to completely assess whether you are behaving in the right way or the wrong way in a very objective manner. We all have our own self-fulfilling, theories that I'm a great person, but not everybody should think that you're a great person, right? So that is self-awareness. How much you are aware of what kind of a person you are and what kind of actions you are doing that affect others. That is self-awareness. So these aspects of emotional intelligence is what these practices increase. So from what I understand is that some spiritual masters, they say that an human intelligence without this kind of a self-awareness, which is not aware of its own mind, will always lead into counterproductive and self-destructive actions. So I feel that is what is happening in the world right now. We are really intelligent beings, we are the most intelligent species on the planet. But that intelligence is not driven by this self-awareness, this emotional intelligence is something that is coming down in today's world. So when, especially, coming to your question, I titled the chapter Emotional Lady Officer because the moment somebody is emotional, we look down upon them, isn't it so? Somebody cries or somebody becomes too kind or compassionate, we don't actually appreciate it. We say like, why are you being so emotional, right? So because we are trained to think that way. But emotions, being emotional, displaying our emotional weaknesses, so to say, will actually make us understand the world we live in. I'll give you one example which I have mentioned in the book also. There's this, I don't know if you have seen the movie Mardani in Hindi, in which Rani Mukherjee, acts as a police officer. So in that movie, she says that, she talks about missing girl children to her senior officer. So she'll be like, she's very emotional. We have to do something about this missing girl and all that. And he says, why are you being so emotional? You're being impractical. So she says, only if everybody becomes emotional every time a girl child goes missing, India will not be safe for girl children. But my take is that this is not just about safety of girl children. About every issue in this world needs an emotional approach. We need to become emotional of every problem that we have in our world. And that is what I talk about in this book regarding emotional intelligence. Thank you.
I wish to tell that your talk was so impressive.
Thank you.
So you have sold the book to me. I want to know where I can buy the book.
Actually, it's not yet launched. Ini launch cheyan avunade ullu. Okay. I mean, I'm planning to launch somewhere or March, April avumbothekkum launch cheyum.
Okay.
Yes.
Which
okay.
publisher?
DC thaneyana.
Okay.
Yes.
All the best.
Thank you so much.
If you become self-content, won't it bring happiness to you?
When you become self-aware?
Self-content, like if I'm happy with what I have,
yes.
rather than comparing with the world around me, wouldn't it bring happiness to me?
Yeah, would it lead to happiness? Adana chodyam alle. Yes, that is exactly the point. അതായത് ഞാൻ പറയാൻ ഉദ്ദേശിച്ചത് വേറൊന്നുമല്ല. എൻ്റെ അനുഭവം ഇങ്ങനെയായിരുന്നു. ഞാൻ എത്രമാത്രം ഒരു പോസിറ്റീവായിട്ട് ഓക്കെ നമ്മൾ സന്തോഷമായിരിക്കണം, സാറ്റിസ്ഫൈഡ് ആയിരിക്കണം എന്ന് ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ മൈൻഡിനെ എത്രമാത്രം പോസിറ്റീവ് സെൽഫ് ടോക്ക് എന്നൊക്കെ പറയാറുണ്ട്, റൈറ്റ്? സോ ഐ ഹാവ് ട്രൈഡ് ഓൾ ദിസ് പോസിറ്റീവ് സെൽഫ് ടോക്ക് ആൻഡ് ട്രൈങ് ടു ടീച്ച് മൈ സെൽഫ് എങ്ങനെയാണ് സന്തോഷമായിട്ട് ഇരിക്കണം എന്ന് ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ മൈൻഡിനെ ഞാൻ പഠിപ്പിക്കാൻ ശ്രമിച്ചു നോക്കി ബൈ ടോക്കിംഗ് ടു മൈ സെൽഫ്. പക്ഷേ അതൊന്നും ഇറ്റ് ഡിഡ്ന്റ് വർക്ക് ഔട്ട് ഫോർ മീ അറ്റ് ലീസ്റ്റ്. ബട്ട് what I understood is that when I understood that everything is about in the mind, and when I started meditating, that's what I wanted to say. When I started meditating, ഈ ഇംപ്യൂരിറ്റീസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നുണ്ടല്ലേ, നമ്മുടെ മനസ്സിൽ എത്രമാത്രം നമ്മൾ സന്തോഷമായിട്ട് ഉണ്ടാവണം എന്ന് നമ്മൾ ആഗ്രഹിച്ചാലും എപ്പോഴും ആ സന്തോഷത്തിനെ ബാധിക്കുന്ന രീതിയിൽ എന്തെങ്കിലും നമ്മുടെ ഇമോഷൻ വന്ന് അത് നശിപ്പിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ഉദാഹരണം, നമുക്ക് ദേഷ്യം വരാം, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സ്ട്രെസ് ഉണ്ടാവാം, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഭയം ഉണ്ടാവാം, എത്രയോ നെഗറ്റീവ് ഇമോഷൻസ് ഉണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ എൻ്റെ ഒരു അനുഭവത്തിൽ ഞാൻ മെഡിറ്റേഷൻ ചെയ്യാൻ തുടങ്ങിയപ്പോൾ ഈ നെഗറ്റീവ് ഇമോഷൻസ് ഞാനൊന്നും പറയാതെ തന്നെ അത് എൻ്റെ പേഴ്സണാലിറ്റിയിൽ നിന്ന് കുറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടേ പോവാണ്. ഞാൻ മുഴുവൻ പോയി എന്ന് ഞാൻ ഒരിക്കലും പറയത്തില്ല, പക്ഷേ കുറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടേ പോവാണ്. ഓരോരോ ദിവസം കഴിയുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും ഇത് കുറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടേ വരുവാണ്. അതാണ് എൻ്റെ ഒരു അനുഭവം. ആ അനുഭവത്തിനാണ് ഈ ബുക്കിൽ ഞാൻ പകരുന്നത്.
സോ ഓർക്കുക, മാർച്ച് ഏപ്രിൽ മാക്സിമം ഒരു മെയ് മാസത്തിൽ എന്തായാലും മാമിൻ്റെ ആദ്യത്തെ ബുക്ക് ദ സ്കൂൾ ഓഫ് ലൈഫ് പബ്ലിഷ്ഡ് ബൈ DC ബുക്സ് എത്തും. പ്ലീസ് ഗ്രാബ് യുവർ കോപ്പീസ്. Ma'am has written this book. I will call it as a noble purpose. I think you want to inspire people to make them introspect, to have a very happier and fuller life.
Exactly. I really wish through this book I can show you some ways for a happier and fuller life. Thank you.
Thank you everyone.